So I loaded up a bunch of 8mm Mauser this morning for this. This load is specific for this rifle, which happens to be Model 98, a beautiful Model 98, a genuine German-made Model 98. This one was made in 1939, which is pretty cool because that's, you know, the year the war started. And this particular rifle really likes the heavier bullets. This one tends to shoot the 196 grain PPU soft points extremely well. With 4895 is what this one likes. And it just got me thinking about some of the basic equipment that you need to reload. And now, reloading doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need to go out and spend, you know, $1,000 on reloading equipment. But some people like to. Some people do. They go out and get the fancy Dillon Progressive and all this stuff that you really don't need. Now I've got some fancy stuff. You'll see here in a minute. I got my digital powder measure, and I have this turret press that I have set up that can really pump out the rounds, but you really don't need it. All I've used for years, most of my reloading actually, is just your standard single stage press here. So here's a couple of Lyman presses. This one here is one of their newer models. I think I've had this for 5 years, maybe 6. And it's just a wonderful press. It really is. It's nice and big and heavy and sturdy. It gives you lots of room in here for, you know, the biggest rounds. The biggest I load for is 338 Win Mag. And it handles them just no problem with lots of room. And it's got the priming system, the onboard priming, which I don't use the press to prime anymore. But as far as on-press priming goes, this Lyman probably is the best. You just have your brass tube here. You load this up full of, you drop your primers in your tray and you go around and pick them up. And then you drop your brass tube in there, and then it even comes with the shield. And then you just pull out your handle, push it in, and lower the ram onto the priming arm, and you're done. But like I say, I don't use the onboard priming anymore. I have the Lyman hand primer, which is what I use. And then this one in the back here is also a Lyman, but it's a very old Lyman. This is an All-American Comet that I bought at auction for 50 or 60 bucks, something like that. But the cool thing about that one is it came in the original box with the receipt, the original receipt. And I think the guy paid $42 or $43 for it back in the 70s. So it was an expensive press. But it doesn't need to be fancy. You don't need a fancy reloading press. You don't need to go out and buy one like this, the big expensive one. You can go out and get something used. Look on eBay. Look in, you know, garage sales. Some people have them, you know, it surprises you what some people have. Or sometimes your local gun store, they'll have used equipment. You don't need to go out and buy something brand new. Just simple. And the single stage presses, you can't put out, you know, an incredible amount of ammunition per hour like you can with a Progressive or even this turret. But if you don't need it, if you don't need, you know, 200 rounds an hour, then, you know, your single stage press is going to work fine. Like I reloaded this, not quite 50 rounds in, I don't know, 45 minutes probably. Didn't take very long, especially because I didn't use my digital powder measure over there. And I might as well talk about this for a minute. So this is another Lyman product. This is a Lyman Gen 6 powder measure. So you just fill up your hopper back there. I think that takes that'll hold a whole pound of powder if you want. And then you just set in your powder weight, and then you can push repeat, and then every time you empty it out, put the empty tray back in, it'll just fill her up again. Now it does take some time to do that, because once you get down to the last couple of grains, it goes into a trickle mode, which really kind of slows it down a bit. But it is pretty nice. It's a nice piece of hardware, but like I say, it's a bit slow. And if I'm doing precision loads for a 308 or 338 Win Mag, something like that, I'll use that. But what I've been doing more and more lately is just taking her back old school and using the Lee dippers. And they're working just great. I use the Lee dippers for these 8mm rounds here, and it worked just stupendously. And you don't need to, like I say, you don't need to go out and buy a digital powder measure. There's another thing you can use, which when I bought my original press, which happened to be a Lee, my first single stage press was a Lee. And I still have it, it's behind me on the shelf. It's just, it's a bit smaller. And when I was doing some bigger rounds, like I was reloading for a guy's 300 Weatherby, and then my 338 Win Mag, it gets kind of cramped in there. Sometimes you actually got to like tilt the bullet up into the seating die before you run the brass up, because you can't put the bullet directly on top of the brass with the ram down, just a little too long. And my Lee, just a little short. Still really good press for anything smaller than like a 300 Win Mag or anything. Smaller than that, it's golden. But this one here, it's huge. You could put a 50 cal brass in there and it would fit. But getting back to powder measures, another thing you could do if you don't want to use the Lee dippers is you get one of these. Now this is, line up, there you go. This is a Lee product, and like I say, I bought this when I first bought my reloading kit, and this was part of it. And I used this for, God, this is thousands and thousands of rounds I charged with this thing. And you got your powder hopper up top here. Just put your powder in there, and then you have your charging bar here, and you just mess around with whatever powder weight you want, and then just swing your arm up. Powder drops from the hopper down into your charging cylinder here. Put your brass underneath this black adapter or fitting, and then just drop her down, and it just drops the powder charger right into your brass. And these are inexpensive. Last time I checked, these are about 50 bucks. They're not very expensive. They could have gone up more since then, but they work for sure. They work just great. And they are a little quicker than that automatic digital one I got over there, but not quite as accurate. But like I say, these Lee dippers, if you're just getting into it, these Lee dippers work really good. And if you have Lee dies, like I don't have a set within reach here, but if you buy the Lee set of dies, they all come with the powder dipper and the little chart, the little paper chart you just open up, and it gives you all your different load info and what dipper you need and powder charges and powder types, all that. Really handy. Or if you don't have Lee dies, or if you don't want to use them, you can actually buy the Lee set of these. They sell a whole set of these dippers, and it comes in a cardboard box, maybe a foot or 14 inches long, and it's got all these in there, and a nice little sliding scale that tells you all the powder weights for the powder charge and which dipper to use. Really handy. And that's pretty basic to get into it. That for measuring is just get those Lee dippers. But you'll also need these, or a variety of these, which are the cartridge holders. Or you drop them in, drop your brass in, and then just holds everything. And I really like these Lyman stepped ones. You can get these in different sizes, holds different sizes for different size brass, but this is the 485, which fits your standard like 30-06, 308, 270, 25-06, 243, all those, it fits those. And these step ones are really nice because they don't take up as much room on your bench. I got a couple of them here. I got another one back there. And these are also a really, really good investment. And they're, like I say, they're a lot smaller than like your standard. Most of the time you'll see these from any other brand like RCBS, Frankfurt Arsenal. This one happens to be MTM. And like these take up a pile of space. They work, but they just take up so much space. I much prefer the Lyman ones. So just get a couple of those. Because what I like to do sometimes is I'll put one with primed fired brass that hasn't been resized or deprimed. I'll put them in one, then I'll put another one over here for the deprimed and resized brass, and I'll just kind of work off the two, which is a system that really works well for me. And speaking of resizing, depriming, you also need some way to lube your cases prior to resizing. So what happens to work for me is you get a lube pad and then some type of lube, and then you just lube up the pad and then roll your brass across the lube pad and you're good to go. Pretty simple. Depends on what type of lube you use. Like I used to really like, well, I still do, the Hornady One Shot, where I just put them all in like a Ziploc bag and then spray the One Shot inside the bag and just shake it around, and that works really good for lubing up brass. But then what you got to do, what I found you have to do afterwards is, then now you got to wash your brass out and get all that lube out from inside of the case. Some people say it doesn't affect performance or it doesn't affect the burning of the powder, but I don't trust that. I still like to have a nice clean case before I dump powder into it. So I just like this stuff in the lube pad because then it doesn't get inside the case, right? So you just wipe it off and then you're good to go. And then I guess dyes. You need different dyes for whatever caliber you're loading. Like I load for probably 30 different calibers. So I have a variety of different types of dye. These are also Lyman. You'll notice I have a lot of Lyman stuff. I really like the company. I really like dealing with them. Their customer service is excellent. They make good products. But I have, actually most of my dyes are indeed Lee. Most of them are. But I got, 3 or 4 sets of Lyman, couple sets of RCBS, which are also really high quality dyes. And I got Redding dyes in there, which are also really nice. But yeah, so you need dyes, whichever type, whatever brand or whatever your store carries, they're all good. They all do the same thing. And then you can start looking for reloading manuals also if you're getting into it. That's probably the first place you should actually get, is into the reload manuals. Now, one of my favorites is the Lee book. I've had this forever. Probably when I started reloading when I was about 14 years old. And this was the first book that I got. And it's an excellent book. It has almost every cartridge you can think of, and it gives such a comprehensive breakdown of all the different load data for cast bullets or jacketed bullets, solids, whatever, for any cartridge you want. 308. From 308 it shows from 100 grain up to, God, look at this, 5 pages, 6, 7 pages of 308, all the way up to 200 grain. But no, I would not shoot 200 grain out of a 308. But the Lee book's good. I also have, again, the Lyman book, which is also a really excellent book. I like this one because it gives you a story on the cartridge. It kind of tells you what they found works best and what the cartridge is suited for. It's really nice. I really like the Lyman book. This is the 50th edition. I think they're on the 52nd now, maybe in the 53rd, I don't know. I've had this one for quite a while. But if you're like me and you shoot a lot of obscure or older cartridges, something like this 250 Savage or this 32 Winchester Special. See, most people have never even heard of either of these, but there happened to be some of my favorites, especially 32 Special. I really like this cartridge. And if you shoot some of those older, more obscure rounds, having the older books is the way to go. So this is yet another Lyman, and this is the 45th anniversary edition. And this is, I think this was printed in 1970. There's a date here somewhere, but I'm pretty sure this is 1970, this one. And it tells you the load data for some more obscure and older rounds, like 300 Savage right there. That's another round I reload for. I have a few 300 Savages. And then it's got, somewhere's in the back here, I think it's got your obsolete. Let's see, it's got all the different bullet molds that Lyman makes. And this is another good book. I thought somewhere's in the back here, it goes over the even older rounds. You know, old pistol rounds. Bunch of good info in these old, yeah, here it is. So right there, data for obsolete and semi-obsolete cartridges. 22 Savage High Power. That's actually on my list. I want to get one of those so I can round out my Savage 99 collection and have one of every caliber. I guess I need a 303 Savage too. 2520. So here's 253,000. So even in 1970, this was an old obsolete cartridge. But it gives you some good load info there for 250 Savage, 2 pages of it. Or page and a half, I should say, 30 Remington. But if you shoot older obsolete cartridges, you got these old books. You go to your local gun show, the nearest gun show to you, and there's always going to be an old guy with a bunch of old reloading equipment, and he'll have a couple of books, and he'll usually take $5 for them, $10. I think I paid $5 for this one. But these old books are worth having, and they're just interesting to look through. See some of the cartridges they had and some of the info they had back then, and you know, they've got, this one has a whole section on loading different types of muzzle loaders, like cap and ball revolvers, percussions. I think there's even a thing for flintlocks in here somewhere. Yeah, right there. But these older books are pretty nice. So get yourself some reloading books, and then get some basic equipment. Another thing you can do is get this. Get into these Lee loaders, which are very handy little devices. And they're very simple, very easy to use. It's just kind of all you need is this, your components, and a hammer. And you're good to reload. I'll do a video separately on this because it's kind of it's a totally different process than using a press, obviously. I'll do a video on using this. But this is basically your simplest, easiest, cheapest way to get into reloading is to get one of these Lee loaders. See, this is like this, I think 1974. So this one is 1974. I bought this also at auction, I think, for $20. This one's for 30-06, and it comes with a nice chart there for your different bullet weights, different powders. Like, look at this, DuPont. They're old enough. DuPont was still making IMR. But like I said, these Lee loaders, and it comes with a little catalog, even this one. They still make these. Not, as far as I'm concerned, they don't make them in the same variety of calibers as they did in the days gone. But this is, again, something you can find at auction or used at gun shows, eBay or whatever, and you can get these pretty cheap. And they don't wear out, right? They're not going to wear out on you. So don't be scared to buy them used. This one, when I bought this was in really good shape. It sat in this box for a long time and never got reused. But it got carried around to a lot of different places. The box is all scarred up. But this is a good, cheap, easy way to get into it. Like I say, I'll do a video on using these. And then you just need this for every cartridge you have, and then your components, and you're good to go. But if you do get into reloading, you'll quickly outgrow these, and you'll definitely want to go get yourself a press, and then powder measures, and just grow your equipment from there. But it doesn't take a whole pile to get into reloading. Just some patience and some know-how. And of course, like I say, the first thing you should be buying is a manual. Just go to your local gun store or Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, whatever you have. Get a reloading manual and get a generic one. Don't try to stay away from, like, I got the Sierra one and I got the Barnes one back there, and they're good, but they're specific to the Sierra bullets and the Barnes bullets or the Nosler bullets or the Hornady bullets, and they're specific to their own their own products. Whereas the Lymans and the Lee, they're generic. They're a generic reloading manual. They just tell you bullet weights and different powders. So these are the ones I prefer. But that's what I do. Go out and get a reloading manual first. Just flip through it, see if it's something you'd be interested in, and then just go from there. Figure out if you want to go the route of the Lee loader to start with, or the press, or the single. Just go right into a single stage. And then I got the turret. I'll do another video on this because this is a whole another dog and pony show contraption going on here. This is a bit too complicated to start off on, but I'll do a video on that later. But that's kind of the basics of what you need and what you want if you want to get into reloading. Whether it's, I don't know if you save much money reloading anymore, or should I say, I guess you can shoot more for the same amount as if you're buying factory ammo. See, and I haven't bought the only factory ammo I buy anymore is just, rimfire 22 mag. I haven't bought in center fire ammo in, years. Because of reloading. And you can get higher quality ammunition. You can tailor it to your rifles. Load them up, load them down, do whatever you want. But yeah, I'll do a couple more videos on reloading. I just thought I'd kind of do one on the basics, on what you need and what you should look out for. So I hope there's some useful information here, and thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if what your reloading setup is, what works for you. I'd really like to read. I'd really like to read what you guys are doing. So thank you very much. Have a good day, and be safe.